Won't it be grand? Oh, won't it be grand? Won't it be grand? Oh, won't it be grand? 'Cause I'm going home to live with Jesus, and won't it be grand? Oh, won't it be grand? Oh, won't it be grand? Won't it be grand? Oh, won't it be grand? I'm going home to live with Jesus. Oh, won't it be grand? Oh, won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
'Cause I'm going home to live with Jesus. Oh, won't it be grand? Listen, I've never been to heaven, but I've been told the streets up there are paved with gold. And I'm going home to live with Jesus, and won't it be grand? Oh, won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
Won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
I'm going home to live with Jesus. Won't it be grand?
Won't it be grand?
Going to that river deep and wide. I got a home on the other side, and I'm going home to live with Jesus. And won't it be grand? Oh, won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
Won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
Yeah, I'm going home to live with Jesus. And won't it be grand? Listen, you can talk about me much as you please. The more you talk, the more I'll stay on my knees. I'm going home to live with Jesus, and won't it be grand? Yeah, won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
'Cause I'm going home to live with Jesus. Won't it be grand?
Won't it be grand?
Yeah, won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
One of these days I'm going home to live with Jesus. Won't it be grand?
Won't it be grand?
Listen, I've never been to heaven, but I've been told the streets up there are paved with gold. And I'm going home to live with Jesus. And won't it be grand? Oh, won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
I'm going home to live with Jesus, and won't it be grand?
Won't it be
Can I just say this?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to that river, deep and wide, 'cause I got a home on the other side. And I'm going home to live with my Jesus, and won't it be grand? Oh, won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
Oh, when I'm going home to live with Jesus, won't it be grand? Oh, won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
Oh, won't it be grand?
Oh, I'm going home to live with my Jesus. Oh, I'm going home to live with Jesus. I know that I'm going home to live with Jesus. Won't it be grand? Oh, come on, somebody give God some praise. Won't it be grand? Won't it be grand one of these old days? We don't sing about heaven as much as we used to. That used to give us hope and healing. When things got down here got just a little bit too much to bear, We just remember this ain't heaven. We may have foretastes of glory divine down here, but this ain't glory. Man born of a woman is just but of a few days and full of trouble down here. But when we get home, this world is not my home. Just pilgrims and can I just go old school? Pilgrims and strangers traveling through a foreign land. This world is not my home. I got a home on the other side. And when I got there, won't it be grand? Slaves used to sing that because they had no relief from their suffering. But they knew that one of these old days they was going to go home and won't it be grand? I think a few clothes and a few cars and nice houses have fooled us. Some of us think we're getting our reward right now. But come on, somebody. Sometimes it takes a little cancer, a little hurt, a little pain, a little sickness to remind us this ain't heaven. I'm on my way, and when I get there, won't it be grand? Oh, I'm going home to live with Jesus, and won't it be grand? Oh, won't it be grand? Oh, won't it be grand? 'Cause I'm going home to live. Oh, I'm going home to live. One of these old days I'm going home to live with Jesus. Won't it be grand? Come on, put your hands together and praise God. Father, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be made acceptable in your sight. Fasten your lips to my frame as I stand in the place of John's shoes in the tent door. Let the cloud of glory descend. Let your voice be heard from the midst of the mountain, like the sound of rushing waters. Eternal God, in the midst of so much that is going on, push back the noise that deafens us. Push away the distractions that blind us of your better will for our lives, so that right here and right now, in this moment, we may catch a glimpse of your will through your word. So let your word go forth, not now ever to come back void, but accomplish the purpose for which it is sent. God, send your word. And then we would be careful to give you the praise, the glory, and the honor. In the name of Jesus, we do pray, praise, and give you thanks. In Jesus' name, amen. Please remain standing and grab your Bibles, whether it's on your phone or old school, you still got the book. I suggest that we always have both, because you never know when your battery's going to go dead or the power go out. Amen. And then I suggest you do like David, who said, "That word I've hid in my heart." You may not can memorize the whole thing, but it's good to commit some things to memory, so that if they take the book away, you still got enough word in you to get through. Turn with me to a singular passage of Scripture, Matthew, the 28th chapter and the 18th verse. Matthew, 28th chapter and the singular 18th verse. And here it reads, "Then Jesus came to them and said, 'All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me.'" King James renders it this way: "All power in heaven and earth is in my hands." I read the NIV for clarity, but I was raised on the King James. There is no loftier language than that of the 16th century Elizabethan English. Meaning can get lost sometimes in the heaviness and the thickness of that language, so we clean it up. But you have to excuse me every now and then when I go King James on you, and I'm not talking about LeBron. Amen. You may be seated in the presence of the Lord and in the presence of whoever is in your company. Today is part 5 of the sermon series that we are in this fall season, entitled, the general title of Faith for Uncertain Times. And certainly these are uncertain times. The only thing certain about these times is that it is uncertain. This is the 5th part in this series, and I subtitle this word today, The Ultimate Power. The Ultimate Power. Let me begin with a story about a drug enforcement agency officer, a DEA officer, who stopped off at a ranch in Texas and talked with an old rancher. He was an old man. I don't know exactly what his age was, but he was in that season where you just don't care what folk think about you or say about you. You say what's on your mind, do what you want to do. You feel you've earned it just because you survived. This was that old man. That's that uncle that you don't say too much to at the holiday season because you don't know what's going to come out of his mouth. This is that rancher. And the DEA officer told this old rancher, who was twice over and more of some his age, because this DEA officer had recently been promoted to this job and was all too proud of his new position. And he flippantly said to this old man, who was old enough to be perhaps his grandfather, he said, "I need to inspect your ranch for illegally grown drugs." The rancher attempted to comply, and he said, "Okay, but just don't go in that field yonder over there." And he pointed out the location. This young, flippant DEA officer verbally exploded when the old man told him, "Don't go in that field yonder." And he immediately rebuked the old man and said, "Look, mister, I have the authority of the federal government of the United States of America with me." And Phil, that was when he reached into the rear pocket of his pants and removed his badge and proudly shoved it in that old man's face and said to him, "Do you see this badge, man? This badge means that I can go wherever I want to go on any land, anywhere. No questions asked, no answers given. Have I made myself clear? Do you understand? And I need you to verbally say yes to indicate you understand what I'm saying." The rancher said, "Yes, sir," to a man young enough to be his grandson. And then he nodded his head politely. He apologized. And then he went about his chores. Well, a short time later, as fate would have it, the old rancher's attention to his chores were disrupted when he heard some loud screams. He looked up and saw the same DEA officer desperately running toward him from a distance, literally running for his life, because he was being chased by the rancher's big Santa Gertrudis bull. One of the biggest bulls in the world, with long horns. And with every step, the bull was gaining on the man. And it seemed inevitable that the man was going to get gored before he could reach the fence and get out to safety. And as the man ran with his eyes dilated, screaming in a high-pitched tone, begging for help, clearly terrified, the old man who he had disrespected just a little while earlier, he threw down his tools, ran to the fence, and yelled at the top of his lungs to the officer. He said, "Your badge, man. Show the bull your badge." They say that power corrupts. And that absolute power corrupts absolutely. And my brothers and my sisters, the corruptions of power have been on naked display in our nation of late. Just 1 week and a day ago yesterday, or 1 week ago yesterday, many of the world's most powerful people, not only most powerful in this nation, but most powerful in the world, including the president of these United States of America and his wife, foreign born, last I checked, and his children, Donald Jr., Eric, Ivanka, vice president and his wife, cabinet members, Senate Majority Leader, many other Republican members of Congress and high-ranking government officials gathered together in the White House Rose Garden, no mask, no social distancing, gathered together for the formal presentation of the president's nominee to fill the Supreme Court seat made vacant by the demise of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, aka the notorious RBG. With only 37 days to go before this November election, these Republicans were primed to try and shove through this extreme right-wing candidate to the right of Clarence Thomas, who is already on record of being opposed to the Affordable Health Care Act, already on record as being opposed to women's reproductive rights, already on record as being opposed to workers' rights to organize and unionize, already opposed to the rights of LGBTQ and rights to marry who you want to, already opposed to the Dreamers and a Comprehensive Immigration Act, already opposed to a new Voting Rights Act. And while she would be replacing RBG, a fighter for women's and minorities and workers' rights all her life, looking to expand rights and opportunities for marginalized people, this person was to the other spectrum committed to taking back rights and opportunities and closing doors and shutting down opportunities. And while both her and RBG were women, ideologically, they were polar opposites, and the only thing they had in common is that both women had a uterus. These same Republicans who only 4 short years earlier refused to even hold confirmation hearings for Barack Obama's Supreme Court nominee, Judge Merrick Garland, a moderate, after the passing of Justice Antonin Scalia, with 11 and a half months left on his term, they said it was too late. You in an election year, let the people decide. And now, the same Republicans that said Obama should let the people decide and wouldn't even hold hearings with 11 and a half months left to go in his term, were trying to shove somebody through with 37 days left to go in a term. This was an act of shameless hypocrisy and an exercise of raw, naked power. Indeed, an abuse of power. And let me say without hesitation or equivocation, this was evil, plain and simple. According to Mahatma Gandhi, the following are evils: wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, commerce without morality, science without humanity, worship without sacrifice, and politics without principles. Can I say that again? These things are evil according to Mahatma Gandhi. Wealth without work. When you reap without sowing, you get a false sense of entitlement that'll make you think far more of yourself than you should when daddy's dollars can always bail you out of your bankruptcies. Pleasure without conscience, believing that what happens in Vegas will stay in Vegas. Commerce without morality, Max Weber, the German sociologist, said the market knows no morality. Science without humanity, everything we can do, we ought not do. Worship without sacrifice to get your praise on, but never pull your wallet out. And politics without principles. This was about power. Nothing more, nothing less. Not patriotism, not service to community and others. This was about power. No whiny principles about fairness or even their own words caught on tape was going to stop them from using it. So what? I said, hold the tape, mark my words. So what? These folks put on full display for the whole world to see that when all is said and done, that they unapologetically live by the code, might makes right. And by the corresponding code, by any means necessary. Or by the code that the end justifies the means. In fact, it was Senator Ted Cruz who just bluntly stated it. We have the power and they don't. Remember the DEA officer? I got the badge and I can go anywhere I want with it. This is a classic case of what some have called conscienceless power. In this instance, the Republicans. Power without restraint, without conviction, without morals to match in the application of the use of power. Conscienceless power versus powerless conscience. The Democrats trying to cry for the right thing to do, but not having the levers within the machinery of government to affect the outcome that they want. Conscienceless power versus powerless conscience. But James Russell Lowe once said, that British Bart of poetry, born 1819 and died 1980 or 1891, he said, truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne. Yet that scaffold sways the future. Behind the dim unknown standeth God within the shadows, keeping watch above his own. And it seems to me today, my brothers and my sisters, that only 1 week later, after that evil and ungodly festival of political hubris, that the God who was behind the shadows stepped from behind those shadows and put the brakes on everyone's well-laid plans to shove this one through. Here we are, just 7 days removed, 8 days now removed from that act of hubris, that act of hypocrisy, that act of raw, naked power shoved down the throats of all who were willing to see. Find the president's aid and communications coordinator, young, strong Hope Hicks, young but not so strong, tested positive for the coronavirus this past Thursday. As my grandmama say, bless her heart. The president, Donald J. Trump, has tested positive for the China virus, for the hoax. How do you test positive for something that's just a hoax? Clarence, how do you test positive for something that don't exist? Now he's in the hospital taking experimental drugs, sending out third-rate videos of lesser quality than any of our kids in Fresh could do with their cell phone. The First Lady, foreign born, has tested positive, and she's convalescing back at the White House in the West Wing, and the only upside of it is I'm sure she's enjoying a few nights apart from the president. Former New Jersey Governor Krispy Kremes, Chris Christie, he tested positive, must have picked it up while he was helping Trump get ready for the debate. I don't know why I always think of donuts every time I think of Governor Christie. Kellyanne Conway, a.k.a. Cruella DeVille from 101 Dalmatians. Don't you see the likeness? The lioness woman in American politics today. That's the lion woman. She's tested positive for the COVID. Apparently, you can't lie your way around a virus. 3 Republican members of the Senate Judiciary Committee that Mitch McConnell was counting on to shove this nominee through committee to get her to the full Senate where they can hold hearings and call a vote. They've now tested positive. So they in quarantine for at least 2 weeks and then have to pass several tests and test negative before they can come back out. And you have to be physically present to vote in committee. And so now with 3 of them down, if just one Democrat decides, I don't feel like showing up, then you can't establish a quorum and you can't vote to get the nominee out of committee. And so on and so on. Even the president of Notre Dame, who has a policy on campus that if students don't wear masks, they will be forced off the campus immediately. And they got him on camera, wear it without a mask. Now he positive, and there is a petition going on campus for the students calling for his immediate firing because he was a hypocrite and wasn't practicing what he preached. It seems that God stepped from behind the shadows and took the very political act of shameless hubris designed to launch the process for the confirmation of an extreme right-wing candidate, shove it through, and God used that very event to release a virus to shut everybody down. People keep asking me, am I praying for these folks? Look, like Biden say, here's the deal, folks. I pray for everybody. Lord bless everybody. See, I pray for everybody. But let me tell you something. Folks like these don't need prayer. They need mass. They need to social distance. They need to stop giving and attending large events in the middle of a cotton-picking global pandemic. All the prayer in the world ain't going to help them and stop them from getting sick if they don't catch a clue and start wearing masks, social distancing, stay out of crowds, wash their hands like the rest of us. The people who deserve our prayers are the pilots who got to fly the helicopters and the planes that these clowns get on without wearing their masks and expose them unnecessarily. The people who deserve our prayers are the Secret Service agents who have to be in their direct physical presence when they're not wearing masks and expose them and their families when they go home. The people who deserve our prayers are the White House staff, the butlers and the cooks and the maids and the custodians who got to walk around these idiots who are not wearing masks and then expose them. The people who deserve our prayers are the reporters who show up with masks to ask the questions and they answer them without a mask, putting droplets in the air. And in case anyone forgot, the people who deserve our prayers are the families of the 210,000 persons dead and counting, and their families who will have a chair that is empty for the holidays. They deserve our prayers, not the idiots who got sick because of their own efforts. There's a song we used to sing at Bethlehem in Tacoma when I was growing up. Now it was called He Speaks. Dolores Crane used to sing it. He said, He speaks, bam, through an earthquake. He speaks through a storm-tossed sea. He speaks in a silent night. Well, sometimes apparently God can even speak through a virus. Sometimes when we get too full of ourselves and our badges, God will lean over from his throne and tell just a couple of bacteria, a couple of viruses, I need you to go down to the White House Rose Garden and just spread yourself around. Just go down to the Rose Garden. They all tight and chummy. Just go down and spread yourself around. Because I got some hard-hearted and hard-headed children down there who really do believe that they're above both the law and nature. And I need to bring them back down to earth. I don't know how you think about it, and some probably going to get mad at this. That's fine, but I'm preaching this sermon. This is a God moment. Did you hear what I said? Somebody say, this a God moment. I didn't say this. I said, this a God moment. This a God moment for anybody and everybody who has some authority, but who need to be reminded that God and God alone has all ultimate authority. That's all I came to tell you today. We and the badges that we have and the responsibilities that are given us because of the badges that we have, we may, yes, exercise some earthly authority, but we need to exercise it mindful of the fact that there is a God who can step from behind the shadows, who exercises ultimate authority. And that's what Jesus was attempting to teach his disciples once and for all times, never to forget at the occasion that we refer to as the Great Commissioning. Oh, we wrap all around verses 19 and 20. We jump all over that. Go ye therefore into all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I've commanded you. And lo, I'm with you always, even to the ends of the world. Oh, we love that. Go ye therefore into all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and for the Kojic, the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even, I said even to the ends of the earth. But my brothers and my sisters, the basis of the Great Commissioning, which is all about, while the faith started with a tribe, the children of Israel, the faith was flung for the world, to the Jew first, but also to the Gentile. And the Gentiles, everybody who wasn't Jew. So that's all y'all. This faith was to leap from the desert sands of Palestine, get down the Roman milestones, down the Silk Road, down to China, and into all the earth, because he died for every creature. And yet, the Great Commission only has validity because of what's stated in verse 18, which is the basis of having the right to even state the commission in 19 and 20, where he says, all authority in heaven and earth has been given to me. If verse 18 is not there, then verse 19 and 20 is hollow. 19 and 20 have validity because of the reality of 18, where he says in King James, it says, all power, somebody say all power in heaven and earth has been given to me. This is a restatement of what first he flung in the air in Matthew 14 and 7. Check it out when you go home. When Jesus says that all things have been given me by my Father. He said, no one knows the Son except the Father. No one knows the Father except the Son and those to whom he reveals himself. That Jesus Christ, the express image and likeness of God the Father, who has put everything in Christ's hand on behalf of the Father. The eternal incarnate Christ is the express image and likeness of the transcendent God whom you have never seen. And all authority from heaven and earth has been given to Jesus Christ. And therefore, he has the right to commission the disciples to go into all the earth. Now, the Greek language has many different words that the English language translates into one word, power. However, the most two prominent of these words are dunamis, from whence we get the word dynamite, and exousia. Dunamis talks about the ability to rearrange things, to blow things up, literally turn them upside down till you turn them right side up. Or if you're doing it negatively, turn things from right side up to upside down, but it's to blow things up. I said at the early service, I'll ball my fist, step into a punch, and plant my fist in the middle of your face. That means I have the power to rearrange the skeletal construction of your face. That's power. If you get in a car with the physics of mass times acceleration and drive it into a crowd, you have the power to take somebody's life behind all that iron coming at that speed. That's power to rearrange things. However, the word here that is translated authority is the word exousia, because authority means the ability to commission, to command, to send forth, to set in motion. You remember the story about the Roman centurion found in Matthew, the 8th chapter and the 9th verse, who his servant got sick, and he found out that his authorities to commission people in the battle had no effect, didn't work on sickness, and realized in watching Jesus that Jesus had some authorities he didn't have. Jesus had the authority, Roosevelt, when their little ship was tossed at sea and the disciples panicked, didn't know what to do, acting like Trump during a pandemic, didn't know what to do. And then Jesus woke up, put his foot on the hull of the ship, and found out that he not only spoke Aramaic, but he also spoke wind and rain and sea, and told the elements, peace, be still. And the wind and the rain and the sea heard the voice of their Lord and settled right on down. Because Jesus had the authority to overrule the wind and the waves and the sea. He saw him when he dried up that woman's issue of blood, 12 years of suffering. Nobody could do anything about her bleeding disorder, but he had the authority to even command hematologic changes. That Jesus stepped up to crazy people, and he had an authority to even command sanity back into the most twisted up mind. And so here this Roman centurion said, listen, I understand authority because I'm a man of authority. I tell somebody go and they go. I tell another come and they come. I tell a servant do and they do. But no matter what I say, sickness don't listen to me. But I recognize, Jesus, you have an authority to command sickness to flee and health to come. And I got a servant that's important to me. And I believe if you just say the word, you ain't even got to come to my house. If you just say the word, that healing will go wherever you tell it to go. So I just give you my address and you tell healing to get to my house and tell sickness to get out before the healing comes, because they listen to you. That's ultimate authority. We serve a God who's got authority that none of us have. We have presidents that got badges and powers and constitutional prerogatives. You can commission ships to the sea, but God can command the sea that can swallow up ships. We can command planes in the air, but God can command winds that can take a plane right back down to the ground. We can command troops in the battle, but God can open up the ground and swallow up troops. Come on, somebody. We have our powers, but God has all power in his hand. And his message to his disciples was clear. You will exercise some authority, you pastors and choir directors and you ministry leaders and you presidents and you prime ministers and you judges and you senators and you mayors, even you parents with kids, you have some authorities, but you need to understand when you exercising them authorities, don't get too far over your skis, because you need to always remember, I alone exercise ultimate authority, which means I got the power to rule and overrule. Matthew here pictures the risen Christ as the Lord of heaven and earth, the cosmic ruler. He who was the humble Son of Man has now become the exalted Son of Man, the King of the present and the coming kingdom of Christ, the one who represents God's cosmic rule. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the worlds and those that dwells therein, but also the heavens are the world's. Heaven is his throne, and earth is his footstool. And everything that belongs to God belongs to Jesus Christ on behalf of God. He is now the Lord of lords and the King of kings. That same babe who was worshiped by Gentiles in Bethlehem's manger and was mocked at the cross by soldiers during his crucifixion for being king of the Jews, that he has now assumed his throne and begun his reign. You see, my brothers and sisters, Jesus' resurrection was not only his vindication, it was his enthronement. He is now sitting on his throne. What you talking about, preacher? Listen, on January 21st, 2021, whoever wins this election, God please let it be Biden. He will stand at our nation's capital at exactly 12 o'clock noon, put one hand on the Bible, raise another hand before Justice Roberts, and take the oath of office. And as soon as he does so, he will have the authority to commission troops into battle because he will be enthroned. This text is about Jesus, who died on Friday but was raised by his power, by the power of his Father on Sunday morning. That resurrection not only vindicated him, but it enthroned him. It is his oath of office, and now he has the right to commission his disciples, go into all the earth and preach the gospel to every creature. But while I'm at it, I also have the authority to tell the sun to get up in the morning, smack darkness from the sky without making a sound. I also have the power to tell the wind, get up beneath the robin and the sparrow's wings and let them fly. I also have the power to tell the bees to populate the poppies in the spring and let the flowers come behind them. I also have the power to keep the restless mama of the seas. I also have the power to make winter follow winter to come before fall, and then to let spring follow winter, and summer to follow spring, and then fall to follow summer, and never to go in the reverse order. He has all power in his hands. Man has some authority, but God alone has ultimate authority to rule and overrule. And therefore, those of us who have some authority should exercise it with conscience, with judgment, with compassion, with empathy, because the God who rules and overrules may be tempted, based upon our abuses of power, to come from behind the shadows and make a joke out of those of us who make a joke out of his justice. Have I got a witness? Sometimes God will come from behind the shadows and make those of us who are too impressed with the badges that we have, and he'll cause you to end up running from a bull that your badge can't protect you from, and make you sick with a virus you swore didn't exist. Come on, somebody. Dietrich Bonhoeffer said God is always making fools out of us. Come on, Haman. Sometimes God will make you die on the gallows you built for somebody else. Have I got a witness? You may rule, but be careful how you rule, because God can always overrule. And those who have conscience but don't seem like you got no power, when there's no court that'll rule in your favor, when they shoot you in the back, keep acting like your life don't matter. Jesus is saying, take heart, because God can rule and overrule. He disturbs the comfortable, but he also comforts the disturbed. And therefore know that God knows not only how to overrule those who abuse their power, but he knows how to empower us that have to deal with these bullies. Have I got a witness? Some of y'all remember the movie entitled Enough, starring J-Lo? All the brothers in the house say J-Lo. And it's a movie where she plays a working class woman who meets a look like an apparent Prince Charming, Mitch. He owns a construction company and he's filthy rich. She gets married, marries up, and all of a sudden she's living the idealized life. Unlimited expense account. Everything seems peachy keen until all of a sudden Prince Charming turns out to be a monster. Starts beating her, slapping her around. The house, instead of being a throne, ends up being more of a prison. Eventually, she gets tired of the beating, fearing her life, and she goes on the run, takes her and her child, and goes on the run. But Mitch has the power and the reach to track her down, so she has to keep moving from place to place. And when she finds out that the law can't protect her, because the law couldn't do anything to him until he did something to her, which is what she didn't want to happen. And so she ends up going to a brother. Somebody say a brother. She ends up going to a brother who teaches self-defense for women in particular. And he said, eventually, since the law won't protect you, you're going to have to protect yourself. And I'm going to teach you how to deal with him when you come face to face with him. And so over several weeks, he teaches her self-defense. And when he has taught her everything he has to teach her, he says, I got to teach you one more thing. He says, if all goes bad and he knocks you down, stay down, play dead, but listen closely. Because I promise you, when he draws near to you, he will try to kick you, because bullies always do. kick you when you down. So if he knocks you down, don't try to get up and run. Just stay down, play dead, but listen very closely. Because when he raises his leg to kick you, he is most vulnerable because all his weight is on one leg. And I'm going to teach you a move that when his leg's in the air, that's when you strike when he's most vulnerable. And that's when he'll become the victim of his own attempt to kick you. And sure enough, when she staged it just right, broke in his house to beat him on his own turf. And he said, and she was giving it better than she was taking it. Oh, but then she tripped. Something always goes wrong. And as she fell to the ground, she remembered her training. It kicked in, Pam. And she laid on the ground, she played dead, and sure enough, as a teacher instructed her, he drew near. And as she listened closely, she could hear him when he raised his leg and got ready to kick her. And as he did, she then executed the move that the teacher had taught her when he was most vulnerable. Instead of getting kicked, she flipped him over and then kicked him, and he went over a balcony, plunged 2 stories down, and to his own death when he fell into a table on the ground. God has a way of empowering those who seem to be powerless so that the Brer Rabbits of the world can take down the Brer Foxes who are always trying to chase us. Come on, somebody. The God who rules and overrules. Somebody once said rabbit hunting is no fun when the rabbit gets the gun. God has a way of ruling and overruling. Native Americans tell how they would teach their hunters when they went out hunting for their families that every now and then you're going to run across a grizzly bear, a 2,000-pound mammal who can outrun you and who will rip you apart. Your instinct will be to run, and if you do, that will be your doom because he will run you down and devour you. So you got to find a way to be counterintuitive. Turn and face the grizzly bear. Hard as it may seem, turn and face that bear like you ain't afraid. Look that bear deep in the eye with all that power, all that strength, all that size. Look that bear in the eye. And while you're doing, the bear will look you back in the eye. But take your spear, put it under your shoulder, and let that bear charge you because he will, because he's a bear. And that's his nature. And when that bear charges you, at the very last minute, just fall backwards, but make sure you have your spear in the shoulder and then plant it firmly in the ground with the tip of it up. And when the bear lunges at you, his own weight will cause that spear to go right through you. You'll survive the weight of the bear on you, but the bear won't survive the spear going through him. I'll use his own weight against him. Look, God has a way of empowering the powerless to take down bullies because God rules and overrules. Have I got a witness? And see, Pharaoh learned this the hard way. He had the authority to commission soldiers to chase the children of Israel into the Red Sea. And he found out when it was too late that God could rule and overrule. And he had the authority to tell the sea to pull it back like a curtain and drown those same soldiers because God rules and God overrules. Nebuchadnezzar found out the hard way. He had the authority to command that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be thrown into a furnace of fire. But he found out when it was too late that God had the authority to rule and overrule. And he just stepped in the furnace with them, sucked the heat out the flame, and they came forth without even the smell of smoke because God can rule and God can overrule. There was a warden down in Philippi who found out too late that he could authorize Paul and Silas to be locked up, to be jailed in solitary confinement, but around around midnight, he found out that God could rule and overrule. And God told the angels, get down to Philippi, jump up and down on the ground until the chains come off and the jail's doors open, because the warden owns the jail, but God owns the cattle on 1,000 hill and the ground beneath the jail. Have I got a witness? That's not enough. You see, Caesar found out, and Pilate found out, and the Pharisees found out that they may rule, but God overrules. They had the authority to subject Jesus to a kangaroo court. They had the authority to convict him to death by means of crucifixion. They had the authority to track him down the Via Dolorosa. They had the authority to put him on a cross, driving nails in his hands, spikes in his feet, a crown of thorns on his brow, a sword in his side. They had the authority to lay his body in a borrowed tomb. Oh, but Sunday morning, they found out God can rule and overrule. When God reached down into the midst of that grave and by his own power raised him up, put him on a throne. Have I got a witness? So that now my Savior says, I got all power in my hands. Have I got a witness? You have some power, but I got all power. Cancer has some power, but I know a doctor who can overrule cancer. Have I got a witness? Diabetes has some power, but I know a doctor with more power than diabetes. Have I got a witness? There are law enforcement officers who have some power, but I got a God who is greater than the law. In fact, grace can do what the law could not do. Have I got a witness? My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. And I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly lean on Jesus' name, on Christ, on Christ, on Christ, on Christ. Pandemic, but I'm on Christ. Bad economy, but I'm on Christ. Police abuse, but I'm on Christ. Cheating the election, but I'm on Christ. Sickness in my body, but I'm on Christ. The solid rock I stand, because he can do anything but fail. He rules and overrules. Say yeah, say yeah, say yeah. Hey, hey, hey. In uncertain times, never forget that Jesus alone has ultimate authority. With our little badges down here, whether it's the badge of an ordination certificate, a consecrational appointment, an elected office, or it's just your house and you telling your kids, my house, my rules. But God says to those kind of parents, fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, even as you're exercising your fatherly authorities. Use them with restraint, because you're supposed to train them up in the way that they should go and not beat them down till they go crazy. Whatever little authorities we have, whether it's the president or just the HNIC, God rules and God overrules. So however you use your little badge, your little authorities, you better use it mindful that we serve a God who has the last word and is going to ask us, with your badge, when I was hungry, did you feed me? When I was naked, did you clothe me? When I was on the street, did you take me in? When I was trying to cast my ballot, did you make it easier or harder? Did you try to cheat me to beat me? He rules and he overrules. And every now and then, God behind the shadows will step from beneath the shadows. Because there's somebody who needs to learn, if they never learned before, now they may rule, God overrules. Doors of church are open. As the choir comes, praise team comes. Remember this, nobody greater. Nobody greater.
Nobody greater
than the God we serve.
Nobody greater than you.
Nobody. Ain't nobody.
Nobody greater.
Ain't nobody do you like Jesus.
Nobody greater.
Nobody.
Nobody greater than you.
Come on, say it again. Nobody greater.
Nobody greater.
We in a God moment today, Clarence.
Nobody greater. Nobody greater than you.
Nobody greater.
Nobody greater.
Nobody greater.
Nobody greater
than you.
Nobody greater than you.
Listen. Ain't it funny how after a raw, naked exercise of power, God turned right around and put some of the most powerful people in the world in quarantine. Put them in timeout like you do a bad child. Put the President of the United States in timeout. Trump is in timeout. How about that, Nat? Members on the Judiciary Committee, they in timeout. Christie is in timeout. God can come down from heaven and take the most powerful people in the world and put them in timeout. What can he do to you and me? What can he do to you and me? This is a God that says, don't play with me, Babylon. I'll break the backbone of your power. Place it in the hands of a people who don't even know my name. He made Nebuchadnezzar the most powerful man in the world. He had him crawling around in his own palace like a dog eating grass because he got beside himself. And then when he got ready, then he straightened out his mind. And Nebuchadnezzar got up, grass stains on his robe. And he said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's God is God. You rule, but God overrules. If you're out there today and you don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ, I offer you Jesus. It's still the only name under the heavens given by which we shall be saved. He who humbled himself, God exalted, so that at the name of Jesus, every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess that he is Lord of all, to glory of God the Father. I offer you Jesus. Not Allah, not Krishna, Muhammad, nor Buddha. I offer you Jesus. The humble Son of Man is now the exalted Son of Man. The ruler of the heavens and the earth. Stands within the shadows, but every now and then he steps from the shadows because he hears the cries of his children. So I offer you Jesus. There's a button on your screen that says, how do I become a member? If you've never accepted Christ, hit that button. Someone will hear your confession of Christ and show you how you can become a member of the body of Christ. Whosoever will. Come on, sing it some more.
Mighty are the works of your hands. Mighty are the works of your hands. Mighty are the works of your hands. Your name is above all names. Your name is above all names. You're worthy of all praise. Worthy of all praise. Mighty are the works of your hands. 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 Your name is above all names. Your name is above all names. You're worthy of all praise. You're worthy of all our praise. Mighty are the works of your hands. Mighty are the works of your hands. Mighty are the works of your
Come on, sing it, sing it, sing it.
Mighty are the works of your hands. Your name is above all names. Your name is above all
His
names.
highest praise.
Mighty are the works of your hands. 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 Your name is above all names. Worthy of all our praise. Worthy of all our praise. Mighty are the works of your hands. 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 Your name is above all.
Yes, sir.
Your name is above all.
Your name, at the name of Jesus, every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess He is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. I offer you Jesus. I offer you Jesus. Hit that button.
The works of your hands. Mighty are the works of your hands. You're worthy of all our praise. Worthy of all our praise. Mighty are the works of your hands. Mighty are the works of your hands. Mighty are the works of your hands.
Come on, give God a praise. Give God a praise.